Good evening and welcome to another episode of Unscripted and Unchained RPG Review. I am DM Bluddworth, and as you can see by the graphics, today's video is RPG a Day 2022. This is day 7, so this would be Sunday's game, I know, or video. I know I'm coming out a day late on this. I've been running a little bit behind, the prompt for RPG a Day 2022, Day 7, which is called System Sunday, is to describe a cool part of a system that I love. And almost every system that I have, there is some element of it that I really love. And so, I mean, I could talk about 50 different games here and 50 different systems, but I am just going to focus on the one that I've really been delving into deeply most recently, and that is the siege system of Castles and Crusades. Now, it's kind of a confusing name for it, the siege system, because it has nothing to do with mass combat. What it really refers to is how in Castles and Crusades, when you're creating your character is going to have the typical 6 attribute scores. But based on their class, one of those attribute scores is going to be a primary attribute, which means that any skill falling within that attribute's spectrum would be an easier task for you to do, and your base roll is just a 12 rather than an 18. So class that you choose will determine which of your attributes is your primary. Now, there's also a racial component in this where humans get to select, because they have no other racial abilities, they get to select up to 3 attributes to be their primary. And this is really a big advantage, I think, or certainly an equal trade-off for not having some of the extra skills that a demi-human innately has. So a human character will have their character attribute score that is their primary. So let's say a fighter would have strength as their primary, and then a human character would get to choose 2 other attributes to be their primaries, which means that their base only has to be a roll of a 12 on a d20, excluding the modifiers, which will also, make that either easier or potentially harder to make that roll. And then the remainder would be the remainder of the attributes would be secondary or require an 18 or better on a d20 in order to be successful. What I find that this siege system does, though, is it gives greater flexibility for the players to think beyond their character sheet. So now if they say, if they ask the castle keeper, which is basically the dungeon master or the game master of Castles and Crusades, that if they say they want to do something, their character is attempting to do something, then there doesn't have to be a specific rule for doing that. And so, or it doesn't have to be a class feature for doing that. So the game master and the player has much more flexibility to do these things that are slightly outside of the box. And all the castle keeper needs to do is to think about, well, what attribute would this really fall under? And then how might this be modified on a difficulty scale? And that's all. And then you just, the player character or the player rolls a d20, and if they made it, they made it. If they didn't make it, they didn't make it. it's a much more flexible system. It's one that allows players to go beyond the character sheet and to really explore doing whatever action comes to mind. And the castle keeper will have that flexibility to say, even though it's not in the castle keeper's guide or it's not in the player's handbook, I can still allow this to happen. And all I have to do is very, very easily think of what attribute and how am I going to modify it. And that's it. So really love this system because it, as I said, multiple times now, it really does open up all kinds of solutions to situations that the player may find his or her character in. It opens up their imagination to really think outside the box. It also allows them to, I believe, to role play, role play their characters in a way that they might not normally do if their character sheet had all kinds of class features and background perks and such, and where they get to the point that they're literally just role playing their character sheet and not their character. And so yeah, I just love the system. I think the system really does open up a lot of opportunities for role playing that might not exist. It opens up the player to thinking outside the box and wondering, well, can I at least attempt to do something that I normally wouldn't have thought of in a much more restrictive system. So again, just love it. I hope you take a look at Castles and Crusades. It really is a great system, and I look forward to watching some of your videos out there, especially on this particular one, to see what aspects of different systems out there that you found that you really love as well. So, without further ado, I'm going to move on to recording my day 8 and getting caught up, and then hopefully I'll be able to keep on track by tomorrow. So you have a great evening. Take care.